Today, we're going to take a look at how we create our own customized theme using Elementor Pro and WordPress. Now, there's two things we need to do first of all. We need to make sure we've got Elementor and Elementor Pro. This won't work with just the free version of Elementor. Plus, just to keep WordPress happy, we need to have a theme installed. Now, that might sound a little counterintuitive because we're going to create a theme. But basically, we're going to use a blank theme, so WordPress is happy, but then we're going to take over into Elementor's theme builder, and we're going to create all the different templates we need inside there. Now, I've already gone ahead and installed Elementor and Elementor Pro, so the next thing we need to do is go and grab that Hello theme. Now, the reason we choose the Hello theme is because the developers behind Elementor and Elementor Pro are the same people that developed the Hello theme. So this basically means it's going to work flawlessly with Elementor and just use that as the basis to keep WordPress happy. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to GitHub. I'll put the link to this in the description below. And as you can see on the GitHub, you can see you've got a pile of files. And if you've never used GitHub before, this can be quite sort of confusing, but the reality is it's very, very simple. All we need to do is come to this green button and you can see it says clone or download. We're going to click on there and we're simply going to say download zip. Once we do that, that's going to zip all those files up together and download the Hello theme. And you can see there's our Hello theme. And there we go. Once we've downloaded it and opened it up, you can see there's the Elementor Hello Theme Master. And if we open that up, there's all the files that you see in the GitHub. So there's the first part. The next thing we need to do now is just install that into WordPress itself. Again, very easy. So what we're going to do is close that down, jump back over to our dashboard. We're going to come into the Appearance section and we're going to go to Themes. Once we open that, you can see all I've got is the 2019 theme installed. We're going to click on Add New. Once we've done that, we can say Upload Theme. Now we can just choose the file and upload that to our WordPress. Next, we're simply going to drag that zip file in, drop that on the Choose File button, and just click on Install Now. That will go through, and it says, you've installed this now. The next thing we're going to do is we can live preview it, activate it, or we can return to the themes page. Let's just click on Activate. Once we've done that, you can see now the Hello theme is set up. Now, if we jump into the customizer, you'll see that there's pretty much nothing in there. You've got the site identity, menus, homepage settings, and additional CSS. So even though this is considered a theme, it really is pretty much a blank setup. Just allows us then to use Elementor Pro's theme builder to build out everything we want. If we just take a brief look, you can see we jump into the site identity, we can upload a logo, we can give it a site title, we can add in a site icon. Jump back out of there, we go to menus, we can just basically set up our menus. Homepage settings just says, do we want to use our latest post or static page? This just mimics what we've got in the settings section of WordPress itself. And finally, if we come back out, the additional CSS is a blank space which we can put our own custom CSS definitions in if we want to style various different elements outside of Elementor itself. So now that WordPress is happy, thinking it's got its own custom theme installed, we're now ready to go through to the template section of Elementor and take a look at how we start creating our own custom templates. So if we take a look on the left-hand side, the latest versions of Elementor Pro have brought with it a new separation. So now templates are separate to the main Elementor section. So you can see inside there we've got Save Templates, Theme Builder, Pop-ups, Add New, and Categories. If we go into the Theme Builder section, you can see this takes us in now and we have the ability to go through and add our first template. Now, before we start creating templates, we need to understand the way that WordPress actually works, and also how the theme builder in Elementor Pro works. So, themes inside WordPress are broken down to various different components. So these are the template files. So you've got the single template, which is used for things like posts, so the individual posts, pages, and so on. You have headers and footers, which are the areas at the top and the bottom of your page, respectively. You have archive pages, which are basically if you had a post section and you had a blog page, for example, where it lists your actual posts themselves, that's an archive, and then when you click on an individual post, that takes you into the single post template. If you're using Woocommerce, you'll also have an archive page for your products and a single post page for the individual product itself. And we will take a look at setting up those Woocommerce templates a little later in this video, so don't worry, that will be covered. Okay, so let's go and take a look at how we start creating our templates. We're on the Theme Builder section and we're going to click on Add New. Once we do that, the first thing we're presented with is what type of template do you want to create? So we can click and we can see we can create pages, sections, headers, footers, single, archive, and pop-up. Now, a couple of these, as I've already said, are not really relevant to theme building. For example, the page is not necessary for the theme building. That's how you create a page template that you could then assign to individual pages. Section, pretty much the same thing, but smaller pieces of a page. The header, footer, single, and archive, they are the things that we want to focus on right now. Now, obviously, if we had Woocommerce installed, which we will look at later, you'd see a couple of additional entries in here that cover specifically for working with Woocommerce, and we'll take a look at those in our own section of this video. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our header. Once we assign the header and footer, then we go through and we'll do the single and the archive. So we click on header. Next thing you need to do is just give this a name, and we're going to call this default header. Now, when you name your templates, it's a good idea to get into a naming convention that makes sense to you as your templates might grow. Now, you might start off with only those 4 templates for the header, footer, single, and archive, but you may also then start to expand if you pull in more complicated designs, more advanced designs. You may want to create individual templates for specific post categories, for example, or specific taxonomies, tags, and so on. So get into the habit of giving it a naming convention that makes sense and allows you to grow. Okay, so we're going to say the default header is fine for this because it is going to be the header that's assigned to every page unless we want to assign something more specific to an individual page. So we say create template. That'll take us through now to the Elementor Editor. First thing we can do is we can go through and we can choose from the library of templates that we have as part of Elementor Pro. Now, this isn't a design video. This is how you create your template. So I'm not going to focus on how we create all these headers and footers and so on. I'm going to use some of the predefined layers just as an example. With that being said, you could use these as the basis, and then if you want to go in and fine tune and tweak, add extra bits and pieces in there, take out things you don't need, you can do that. You can use these as a one-stop, or you can use them as a starting point. Now, with any of these templates, you can see we can insert it, we can apply a heart to it to make sure we favorite it, or we can give it a click on the little magnifying glass that allows us to preview this to see what it'll look like. So we can make sure then it fits into what we're looking to achieve with our particular design. This looks fine for me, so what we're going to do is we're going to say insert on there. That's going to insert that into our blank template, and there's our header set up all ready for us. Now, we've got these blank areas for the logo and for the menu section because we currently haven't assigned any menus or any kind of branding to the actual logo itself. We can do that a little later, and we'll see how that works a little later on by using some of the features we have inside that very basic Hello theme. But you're not reliant upon that. You can do it manually if you want to. So next thing we need to do is click on Publish. Once we hit Publish, the next thing we're presented with is the actual condition setup for when and where we want to display this particular template file. So it just says, where do you want to display your header? We're going to click on Add Condition. This gives us the ability now to do 2 things. We can include or we can exclude, so we can set up various different types of conditions. We can then specify what that condition that has to be met is. So we say include, and you can see it says entire site. If we expand that out, we've got archive and singular. We'll take a look at the archive and singular later because that will apply to, as you would expect, the archive and the single page templates. So entire site is fine. So we can say include this in the entire site. If we wanted to add a second or third condition to make sure that we can filter this down to only to be displayed in the exact places that we want, we can easily add a condition, and again we can use the include, exclude, and any of the options that are available and the condition itself. If we want to get rid of that, we simply click on the X and that condition is then removed. So we've set up our condition, we've set up our template, we hit save and close, and now that will become the default header for our entire site. So as the header created, we can now repeat that procedure for the footer. So let's just come back out of Elementor, exit to the dashboard, and what we're going to do is come back to our theme builder. Once we're inside there, you can see there's our themes. We now have the ability to go through and view any of the theme or template files that we've created, header, footer, single, and archive. And like I say, if you have additional plugins like Woocommerce installed, you'll see extra tabs that are specific to that particular plugin. What we're going to do is we're going to say add new. Again, we get presented with the new template option. This time we're going to come in and we're going to say we want this to be the footer. So we'll click on there and we're going to call this, again, default footer. Click on create template and it'll take us over into Elementor Pro so we can go through and we can choose any of those blocks again if we want to. Now, we've also got my templates. So if we create custom templates or we import custom templates that we might have designed or purchased or just downloaded, we can, if we want to, simply come in, use the My Template section and upload them to this area, which then we can go through and we can choose those. So you can create your own custom library of templates that you want to use in your own theme building further on down the line. Okay, let's just jump back to the block section. We'll come over to the filter in the left-hand side and we're going to come down in there and we're just going to search for footer. Click on there and that'll bring up all the predefined footers that we have available. So we're going to find one that we think is actually in keeping with what we just created. We'll use this one. So we'll just insert that into our page. Shows us examples, we'll insert it, that looks fine. And there we go, there's our footer inserted into the page. Now this is all fully editable, so we can click and we can use any of the Elementor tools to make any changes to this whatsoever. So we have full control over this, even though we're using a predefined template. Again, we'll hit publish, we get the conditions, so we'll say add a condition, include in the entire site, save and close. And that's now our header and footer in place. So let's just jump over to a blank page and see these in action. And there we go, there's our header and footer in place. Now obviously, currently it looks a little bit rubbish because all we've done is define the header and footer. We haven't put any logo in there, we have no content in our site, so it's all looking a little bit rubbish, but this is the basis of creating your theme. We can then populate it with information after all those theme elements are created. So let's just jump back into our theme builder. So now let's go through and create our archive page. Now the archive page, like I said at the top of this video, is basically where we list all of the posts before we click to go and take a look at the single. So we're going to click on archive. Again, we get presented with the create your first so-and-so, in this case the archive. So we're going to click on there. You can see it pre-fills out archive because we chose the archive tab. We're going to call this default archive and create our template. Now again, that'll take us through to the predefined blocks layout, and we can choose any of these predefined archive layouts, or we can create our own. Let's keep this really simple for this example. This is just a quick start guide, and we're going to come down and we're going to say we're going to use this particular example. So we'll insert this one, click to add that in there, and it'll go through, load all the different elements in for us, and then we'll start to see some basic information populated into that design. Now, because I've already gone ahead and created just a couple of posts, you can see that they're automatically listed inside our new archive template. If we don't like the look of this, we can change anything we want on this. Let's just say, for example, we only want to display one single post. So we like the look of this, but we want to have it as one post as opposed to two side by side. We can simply come to the columns, set that to 1, and you see then everything will update accordingly. And if we wanted to, we could change that to any kind of number we want between 1 and 6. So very easy to set that up. We can also change the style from, in this example, cards to classic, and you can see we get a slightly different look. Now obviously we can go through and fine-tune this to our heart's content, but let's just leave this really simple. Set that to be 1, and we'll leave it like that. So we'll hit publish, we'll say add a condition, and you can see it says include in all archives. Now when we expand that out, we now have a lot more options because the archives can be filtered out a little bit more than you can with the headers and footers. So you can see we could apply this to the author archive, a date archive, search results, or we can go through the post archive itself and say post archive, categories, and tags. So if you wanted to filter this down and have different designs for each of those different sections, you could easily set up the include to show it in those relevant sections, and then it would be ignored in the other ones. Now also you can stack these includes up for these conditions, so if you wanted to apply it to 2 or 3, you could do that, so you could easily just add extra conditions in to display it, and then create the other archive templates you want for those other page layouts. Hope that makes sense. It's not complicated. It is very, very straightforward. You just use those conditions. And conditions can be edited, which I will show you in a moment. So let's just say we want this for all archives. We'll say save and close. That now becomes our default archive page. But what if we wanted to change that? We've made a template. We think, actually, I want to go in and I have this to assign to a particular category. And I want to have a different layout for another category. Well, how can we do that? Very, very straightforward. Just hidden away a little bit inside Elementor. So what we need to do is come down to where we've got the update button. As you can see at the moment, that's grayed out. So we can't actually update it because we've made no changes. If you look to the right-hand side of it, you can see it says we have save options. Click to expand that out. We have an option that says display conditions. We click on that. We can now open that back up and we can make any changes we want to those conditions. Add, take away, change, whatever we want. So you can come in at any point in the future and edit any of those conditions that are associated with a particular template quickly and easily just by simply going to that option. So we don't want to change anything on there. We'll close that down. So there's our archive setup now. So that's pretty cool. Now we need to go through and create the single post type template. So we're back into our theme builder section, and the final thing we need to do is come into the single post template. So you can click on there, add new single. You can see we have single. We can select the post type. We're going to go through it. We're going to say this is assigned to posts, but you can, if you want to, assign this to both the media and the 404 pages alongside the normal standard page. So you can create templates for pretty much any aspect of your entire website layout. So all those options are available. We just want to set the post options up. And we're going to call this default single, and we'll create our template. Once we've done that, we jump over into Elementor and we can pick from any of those single post templates or create our own. So let's find one that we think looks good. I like the look of this particular one, so we're going to choose this as our option and we'll insert that in. Let that download all the settings. We'll say yes, we want to use that, and we'll let that download everything, and there we go. You can see now that goes through and creates the template, pulling in the relevant data from our posts. And we can of course make changes to anything on this particular template. But there's the basics of creating our theme. So let's just publish this, set this up, and again you can see we now have slightly different conditions, but it's all very logical. So we say include posts, but we go on there and we can see we've got a ton of different options on how we want to display this. We want this to be the default, so we're going to leave this to be posts, set to be posts, and we'll say all, but you can filter this right the way down. So if you wanted this to apply to a specific post, you could choose that from the all and start typing in any sort of name you want in there. So if I start typing in Canada, you could see I could assign this particular template to a specific post. So we can go right the way from top level, from all posts, through to post in a particular category, post by a particular author, right the way down to a specific post. So you have a ton of granular control inside this theme builder in Elementor. We're going to take that out of there. We're going to say we just want this to apply to all of our posts. Hit save and close. That's now our default post listing template created. So let's take a look at this in action now on our actual demo site. So there's our archive listing. So you can see the design we created showing all of the posts we currently have available on our site. If we click to go into any of these, we'll click. That'll take us in and you can see we now have that single post template all laid out. But you may notice that something's missing. Our headers and footers are gone. Now that's because this particular template is using one of the Elementor canvases. In other words, it strips off the header and footer. You might not want to do that, or you might come across a situation where you choose one of the predefined templates like we've done in this video and wonder, well, where's my header and footer gone and how do I get them back? Well, it's very easy. We simply just jump back into Elementor and open up the template that we want to edit. We then come down to the little cog icon in the bottom left hand corner, which is the settings panel. And as you can see, the first option in there is general settings. It says the status is published, but the page layout is using the Elementor canvas. And as you can see, no header, no footer, just Elementor. Click to expand that out and we'll say we want default. Once we do that, you'll find that the header and footer will now reappear inside the design all ready for us. So that's all there is to it. Hit update. And now our page will have those headers and footers back in place. We come back over to our test page and refresh that. You'll see there's our header and footer all back in place. So very easy to reinstate if you find you have a template that doesn't do what you expect it to. More than likely it's just using the Elementor canvas to strip off any of those headers and footer areas on the site. Now at the moment our template structure on our site looks a little odd because we only have placeholders for the header and we only have placeholders in the footer for the things like the logo and the navigation and so on. So how do we put those in there? A couple of ways you can do it, and because we're using the hello theme, the easiest way is to simply come back in and go into the appearance customize section. Once we're inside there, we can go through and we say we'll set our site identity. So we'll click on there. We're going to choose a logo, and I'm simply going to upload a relevant logo to use in this particular design. So I'm going to upload that, hit select. We'll say we want to skip cropping, and after a second or two, you'll see there's our logo placed in there. If we scroll down, we'll see it's also placed in the footer in the relevant locations. We can edit that if we don't like the position of it. We go in and take a look at that in a moment. Next up, let's just jump out of this and let's go to our menu section. We'll click on there. Now, currently we have no menu created. So let's just say create new menu. We'll call this main menu. Set this to be primary. So that knows it's going to be placed up at this top section. We'll click next. We can now go through and start adding in relevant different links into our menu. So let's click on add links. We'll say we want home. We'll have sample page. We'll come into our categories. We'll add that in there. So we've got a couple of different items. And we'll just simply click on publish on there. And after a second or two, you should see there's our navigation inserted into our design. And obviously, as we add more content, we can easily go in and add those either through the customizer, or we can just come out of the customizer and use the typical menu setup underneath the appearance section. So we'll come into there and you can see there's our normal menu structure. Let's just go in and say, let's open up our posts, and we'll say we want to have these 3 posts in there. Add those to our menu, and we'll take out our categories. Save our menu, and we just jump back over to our page, test page, refresh that. You can see there's all our links our logo, everything is now in place. So let's take a look now. We can go back in and we can edit this to make sure that everything is looking the way that we want. Come back over and we're going to go back into templates, back into the theme builder. We can just jump into our header section and that'll filter it out. And so we have multiple different templates on here as your sort of site grows and your template structure grows. Using these tabs at the top is an easy way of just filtering it down to just seeing what you want to see. Let's come in and say, let's edit this with Elementor. What we're going to do is we're going to change the position of this and we're going to adjust the sizing and so on. So at the moment that's set to be centered, so we can simply click on this and we'll just align that to the left hand side. If we want to adjust the size and things, we can do that inside here. You can see it's set to be the site logo, so it's dynamic information that's being pulled in from our site structure. So that's nice and simple. We don't need to worry about that. If we want to take this out, we could simply click to remove that, right click, and we'll just say we want to delete that. We can adjust the width of these columns and we'll set it to be around about 1/3, 2/3, something around there. And then what we can do in this one is we can say we want to drop in some social share. So we say social icons and we'll just drop those up in there. We'll set those to be right aligned and we'll just adjust the size of those a little bit. So we come into our styling, adjust our sizing just to get that the way that we want. And we'll also just adjust the size of this header. It's a little on the large side, so I'm going to just drop that down. Don't need to be as big as that, so we'll set that to about 100 pixels high. So there we go. So we've now fine-tuned that. If we want to change the colors on any of the navigation, we could do that as well, but let's not worry too much about that. So let's hit update on there, and you can see it's very easy to go through and fine-tune any of those templates at any point in the future. So come back over, refresh this, and we'll see that we now have the smaller heading all set up. Now, as a bare minimum, when you're creating a theme, there's one more template we need to create, and that's the single template for our pages, not our posts, our pages. So if I show you quickly a page, you can see all our templates for our posts look great. If we look at a page, there's no template assigned to it, so it just fills that empty space and looks absolutely terrible. So we can rectify that very easily. So let's come back in. We're going to choose single again because we want to deal with the single sort of template for this particular page. What we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to say we want to create a new one. So we're going to say add new. Single is fine. What we're going to do then is set the post type to be page. Not a post, a page. So we're going to click on there and we're going to call this default page single. Create our template. And as always, we go through then and we can choose any of the predefined layers. Now you can see these are slightly different because this is for the single page template. And you have a couple of options available. So we could choose this particular one, which just puts the title and the content. Or we can use this, we insert an image at the top, blank, and so on and so forth. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go for this one. So we'll say insert. That will then load in the template that's going to use for our single post page layout. So if we just click on publish on this one, again, we get that condition. This time, because we told it want to be a page, it knows it's going to be pages, and we can assign it to all of our pages. So pretty much the same kind of things you expect with the posts. We can go through and filter that down, but you can see this time we have less options when we're dealing with pages. We have pages or pages by a particular author, or we can then filter those through down to specific pages if we want to assign that right the way down to that granular level. We want this to assign to all pages. We'll hit save and close. That will then save. Now we just jump back over to our test site and refresh this. We'll now see that now a new template is being assigned to all of our pages. Now obviously WordPress features other pages other than just this particular page template. You've got things like the 404, you've got the pages that display any media such as images and PDF files and so on. So what you can do is you can go through and create those. And I would recommend creating ones that are relevant to those particular pages or those types of pages, but the procedure is exactly the same. The only thing that really changes is the actual condition you associate with it. So I don't really need to go through all of that because you're just repeating the same procedure with one different step. So now that we've set up the key theme templates for a normal WordPress install, let's take a look at activating WooCommerce and see what options we have available to create our templates for WooCommerce specifically. So with WooCommerce installed and activated, you see we now have a couple of new tabs. We have Single Product and Product Archive. Now these are going to work in pretty much exactly the same way as any of the other template files when we're building our theme. So let's take a look first of all at creating the Product Archive, and then we'll finish up by taking a look at the single product. Click on Product Archive. Again, we'll say add new product archive. We're going to call this default. Create our template. That's going to take us through then, and we do the same again. We can just go through and pick any of the predefined layers. And again, this is the nice thing about when you're working with Elementor Pro. You can see when we add in things like WooCommerce, it already has some predefined layers we can use as the basis for creating our custom sort of theme. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to choose this particular one. I'm going to say insert, and we can use that as the basis of our design. As always, we can go through and tweak anything we want as part of that particular layout. We're going to leave it as is, that's fine, but we can, if we want to, go through and style everything, including the number of products displayed, the number of rows, columns, the orders, and so on and so forth. Hit publish, add our condition, and you can see we now have all product archives. To expand that out, we've got a couple of options associated with our archives for products. You can see we've got all archives, product shop page, search results, product categories, product tags, and so on. So we can, if we want to, let this assign it to all of the different archives, or if we wanted to, we can create slightly different layouts for each of the different sections of our WooCommerce store. So we may want the search results page to be different to the actual shop listing itself, so we can let people see they're looking at a different section. Or you may want it exactly the same. Well, you can use these options, these conditions, to set that up any way that you want based upon categories, tags, and so on. For our example, we're going to let it do it for all product archives. We'll hit save and close. We then created our archive. So all we need to do now is just simply jump back to our dashboard, go back to our theme section, and we're going to do the final thing, which is just for our single product. Add our new single product. I'm going to call this single product archive. Create our template. And then we'll just choose one of the predefined layouts from Elementor itself. So I kind of like the look of this one, so it's in keeping with the previous design. So let's just say insert that into our design. Once we've done that, let those template files install, go through, hit publish, set our condition to say all products. And again, you can see we have various different conditions we can set up. So all products, in category, in child product categories, in tag, products by author. So you can see we can really fine tune how we want any of the templates to be used for any of the parts of our theme. We'll hit save and close. Everything should now be completely done. So what I'm going to do is just add in the shop to our navigation, and we'll take a look at what this looks like on the front end of our site. Okay, so we've got a new shop section added to our navigation. If we click to open that up, you'll see there's all our products, all laid out the way we expected. And if we click to go into any of the products, you can see it's using the design we've just associated with this particular template. And that pretty much is it. That's your quick start guide to how you create your own theme using Elementor Pro. Now obviously this is just the basics. There are so many more things you can do and so much more control you have over all the different layouts. You don't have to rely upon any of those theme templates that we chose from Elementor. You can create it from scratch. You can go through and use those as the basis, and you can fine tune and tweak to get everything that you want. So hopefully what you've seen in this video is it's very, very simple to start creating your own customized themes with Elementor Pro. And just by using that simple hello theme, we just make the whole process incredibly simple and painless. So has this inspired you to give creating your own custom theme with Elementor Pro a go? If it has, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to get a conversation started. Speaking of the comment section, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. But let me know in the comment section why you didn't enjoy it. Helps me create better content moving forward. Now, all the applicable links for anything covered in this are in the description below, so you can check those out if you want to. And as always, my name has been Paul C. This has been WPTuts, and until next time, take care.